Okay. So we begin today the Gemara on Daf Lamed Beis Amud Aleph, towards the top of the Yomid, 5 lines from the top of the Yomid, where it says Darash Rab Yehuda. So the Mishnah here, because it was speaking about a person that made a neder, I should not have anah from somebody that had a bris milah, so it brought many different Tanoim that speak about the greatness of the mitzvah of bris milah. And then it brought the story of Moshe Rabbeinu, that on his way going to Mitzrayim, so he stopped in the hotel, and for a moment he was being Isaac in the matters that he needed there in the hotel, and he didn't make the bris for his son immediately, and therefore his life was threatened. So the Gemara now brings another member from Amnamayra about this. Darash Rabbi Yehuda bar Bizna. B'shah shenisrashal Moshe Rabbeinu min Amila. At that time, when Moshe Rabbeinu was negligent of this mitzvah of bris milah, bo af v'chema. So these two malachim that are called af and chema, which are actually names that the Gemara uses in another place for the Yetzer Hara, for the Satan. Ubaluhu. And they swallowed up his body. And all they left exposed was his feet, which is actually referring to the place, the Makom HaMilah. So he understood, or his wife understood, that the reason for why this is happening is because he didn't fulfill the mitzvah of bris for their son. Miyar immediately vatikach tzipoyret tzoyer. So his wife Tzipoyret took a sharp rock, vatichres es arlas bena, and she made the bris for their son. And miyad immediately vayiref mimeno. So these malachim that came in the form of a snake that swallowed him alive, left go from him. At that time, Bikesh Moshe Rabbeinu lohargan. So Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to completely get rid of af and chema, which basically means, as the Mefarshim here say, he wanted to get rid of the power of the Yetzer Hara. Shouldn't come to ever attack or disturb a Yid again. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, the Eibusha tells Moshe Rabbeinu, Heref me'af va'azoiv chema. Let go of af and let go of chema. So we see that he was grabbing hold of them. And there are those that say, Hargoi l'chema, that Moshe Rabbeinu actually managed to kill chema. Shenem, as the pasuk says, chema ainli. I don't have chema anymore. He's gone. Fragt the Gemara but v'aksiv. In another pasuk it says, Ki yogarti mipnei afa chema. That I think this is also Moshe Rabbeinu speaking. He says, I was afraid of af and chema. So we see that af and chema both still exist. Says the Gemara, two answers. Either tre chema hava. There are two different aspects of the Malach HaMaves, the Satan, that are called Chema. V'baiseme gunda the Chema. When it says he is afraid of Chema, this refers not to Chema himself, but the army of Chema, which still existed. But according to this Gemara, you see over here that some level of the Yetzer Hara, Moshe Rabbeinu got rid of at that time. He killed Chema. Tanya, going back to the milas of the mitzvah of Milah. Rabbi said, G'dayla Milah so great, she'en l'cha mishin is asik b'mitzvahs, k'Avram Avinu. There's nobody that was constantly busy fulfilling mitzvahs like Avram Avinu. V'lo nikra tomim, however, he wasn't referred to as tomim, as being whole. Ella al shem Milah, only once he did the mitzvah of Milah. Shenemas halach lefanei v'hayei tomim. And then the pasuk says, when is he going to be tomim? Uksiv etna brisi beni beinecha, when you'll fulfill this mitzvah of the bris, the covenant between the Yidden and Hashem. So the Rebbe points out in the Sikhe, we had this in the Mishnah as well. In the Mishnah it used a different lashon, that when Avram Avinu fulfilled the mitzvah of Milah, then he was called Shalem. And here in the Gemara, in this Braise, it says the lashon that he was called a Tomim. So the Rebbe says Shalem and Tomim don't mean exactly the same thing. Shalem means when a person is complete and he has nothing lacking. He has no blemish, nothing that's lacking. That's Shalem. Person's complete. Tamim is more than just not lacking. Tamim is an extra level of tmimus, of wholeness, which comes from a higher level of connection to Hashem. For example, the Rebbe says you have it even when you get to a year, a full year. So there's what's called a full year, a shana shlema, and then when you have an extra month to the year, so even without that extra month, it has the full 354 days of the year. But you add another month, that's called a shana tmima. That's an extra tmimus. So according to what the Brais over here is saying is that when Avram Avinu fulfilled the mitzvah of Milah, he didn't only come to the point of Shalem, that every Aver in his body was perfect, including the Aver of the Bris, but also Tomim. He got to a completely higher level of Tmimus. The Gemara continues, Davar Acher, another pshat. G'dayla Milah sheshkula keneged kol ha-mitzvah shebeteira. Milah is so great that it's equal to all other mitzvahs. Shenem, as the pasuk says, ki al pi hadvarim ha'ela, which refers to all mitzvahs. And the pasuk there continues to say, Karati itcha bris ves Yisrael. I make with you this covenant, which refers to the mitzvah of bris. Davar acha another pshat gedola mila so great shel male mila if not for the mitzvah of bris mila leniskayim shemayim v'aretz. Heaven and earth would not continue to exist. Shenem, as the pasuk says, im loy berisi yoimim v'layla if not for the mitzvah of bris. So the pasuk continues chukas shemayim v'aretz leisamti. You would not have the nature of heaven and earth existing. And the Gemara says on this drasha oplige de Rabbi Eliezer. This the darshans that it goes on bris argues with the way Rabbi Eliezer touched it, because the Amar Rabbi Eliezer said Gedele Teira. When it says in the pasuk here brisi, doesn't refer to the mitzvah of the bris milah, but it refers to the covenant between Yidden and Hashem regarding Teira in general. Shemale Teira, if not for Yidden that have the Teira and fulfill Teira, leiniskayim b'shamayim v'aretz shenemem le brisi yoimim v'layla chukash mayim v'aretz le samti. So brisi, according to his pshat, refers to Teira in general, and the Teira is what keeps the earth and the heavens in existence. Amar Rav Yud Amar Rav Bishosh Amalei HaKadosh Baruch Hu LaAvraham Avinu. When the Eibusha says to Avraham Avinu, "Salech lefanai v'hayei tamim," walk in front of me and then you'll be whole. Ach zasei rada. So he trembled. He was afraid. Like, what does this mean? Does it mean Amar Shema Yeshbi Dava Meguna? Is there something that's disgraceful about my behavior, and therefore the Eibusha is saying that you have to have a bris and then you'll be whole? It doesn't mean that I'm lacking until this point. But when the Eibishter told him, I'm going to give you this mitzvah of bris milah, so he cooled down, he calmed down, he realized that the Eibishter is not saying that he was incomplete until this point. Like I said before, the way the Rebbe explains it, that Eibishter didn't say you're going to be sholem, the Eibishter said you're going to be tomim. Tomim is higher than sholem. He was already complete before in his Avodas Hashem, perfect. But there's something that's beyond perfection. When you have a level of tmimus connecting to the Eibishter on a much higher level, that's what the Eibishter gave him. Since we're speaking about Avraham Avinu, so the Gemara here brings another few things regarding Avraham Avinu. The Eibishter took him out. What does it mean the Eibishter took him out? Avraham Avinu, that is, says Hashem, Ribono shel olam, master of the universe, istakalti b'mazel sheli. I looked at my mazel, and what did I see? So ve'enli ela ben echad, I only have one child. Another gears over here on the side of the Gemara is he saw clearly ve'eni roi lahaylid, that I can't give birth. Besides Yishmael that he had, he can't give birth. Amaloi, so the Eibusha tells him, Tzei mitztagnina shalcha, leave your astrology, because ein mazel Yisrael. Don't base your future on the mazalis that you see, because the Yid has no mazel. Or the way it's taich in Chassidus sometimes, ayin, mazel Yisrael. The source of the mazel of a Yid comes from a much higher place, from a level of ayin that is, beyond our comprehension, not anything that you can see and understand. Rabbi Yitzchak said, Kol masmim atzmoi, a person that completely and wholly gives himself over to Hashem, that's one pshat, or others say masmim means sincerely, with sincerity, without thinking too much, gives himself completely away to Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu masmim imay, the Eibusha will dedicate himself to you. Shenem, as the pasuk says, im chosid chasad, a person that's pious, the Eibusha will do chesed to him. Im gvar tomim titama. If you are tomim, you give yourself away, dedicate yourself completely to Hashem, the Eibusha will be dedicated to provide for you. Rav Ashi said, Kol masmim atzmai. Person that dedicates himself completely to Hashem, shah oimedeslai. The time will stand for him, which means the opportunity, the time to be oile legedula, that Ran says, to come to greatness, will be available for him. Shenem, as we see by Avraham Avinu, Hisalach lefanai v'hayei tamim. Hashem says, walk in front of me and be complete. He became a tamim, completely dedicated to the Eibishter. And then the pasuk says that the Eibishter tells Avraham Avinu, v'hayisa la'av amoin gayim. You will become a leader, a father for all the nations of the world. Amar Rabbi said, Kol menachesh, a person that's menachesh, meaning a person that does all these kinds of things, is like sorcery or other things that tell you the future. What happens? Loi nachash, he's actually going to suffer from this sorcery itself. It's going to come and affect him. Shenem, as the pasuk says, Ki loi nachash b'Yaakov. So the Gemara here is darshaning, loi means to you, the nachash will affect you. Frek the Gemara, but how could you darshan that from this pasuk? Well, b'lamed aleph ksiv, it says loi nachash, that there is no nachash that will affect the Yid, regardless, even if a Yid is involved in these things. But the Gemara says, you're right, we can't darshan it from the pasuk. Ela mishum midah keneged midah. But this is midah keneged midah. If you're involved in these things and trying to figure out the future, so then those kinds of kaiches of tumah, impurity, will come and affect you. But if you just walk in the pathway with the Eibusha, like it says, tomim tiem avay lekecha, without using any of these things, so then it will not affect you. Tani Ava berei the Rab Zera. Ava, the son of Rab Zera, taught as follows. Kol Adam she'einu menachish. A Yid that doesn't try to use any of these kaiches that are impure, machnis noisai b'mechitze, he'll be able to enter even into this place. Shafila malachi ashadas and yecholim lekanas b'seicha. Even malachim can't enter into such a level. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, Kiloi nachash b'Yaakov lekesem b'Yisrael. The nachash and the kesem, various different kaiches of tumah, it does not exist amongst Eden. And then what does the pasuk over there say afterwards? That the Eden go to, second, the lashon of the continuation of the pasuk is, Ke'es Omer Yaakov Yisrael ma Paul Kel. The malachim come and ask the Eden, what's the Eibishter doing now? Meaning the Eden come to a place where the malachim can't even be there. Omer Abavo, Omer Abelazar. Why was Avram Avinu punished? V'nishtabdu banav leMitzrayim, and his children, his descendants, went down and had to be subjugated and work hard in Mitzrayim and Golus, Masayim ve'es hashanim, 210 years. So the Gemara here brings a few reasons for this. One is mipnei she'asa and garye b'talmidei chachamim. So one reason is because he took talmidei chachamim and he drafted them into the army, meaning to come and fight the war with him. Shenem, as the pasuk says, vayorek es chanichav, that he gave the weapons to those that he was, the ones that were with him, Yelidei Beisa, the ones that were living in his home. In other words, those Talmidei Chachamim that were living with him, he took them in the war that he went to fight those 4 kings that captured Lot. So he conscripted them, he drafted them into the army to fight with him. Shmuel says the reason is because he was thinking, when the Eibusha came and promised him that he's going to give him the land, so he came and was thinking, is this true? Is the Eibusha going to give this to me? And he asked the Eibusha for a sign. Shenem, as the pasuk says, give me a sign. How will I know that I will actually inherit this land? Rabbi Yechanan says, Shehifrish b'nei Adam milihikonis tachas kanfei Eshchina. There was one time that he separated people and he didn't give them the opportunity to come under the wings of the Shechina. When was that? Shenemar, when he was speaking to the king of Sdaim, and he asked him, what do you want? And he said to Avram Avinu, Tenli nefesh, give me back all the people that you captured. The possessions, the money that you captured, that you can keep. And Avram Avinu didn't respond. He should have said, no, I want these people to come with me to be mekar of them, to bring them under the wings of the Shechina. Of course, we can't understand these things on a simple level. We're talking over about Avram Avinu. So when we speak about these things, it's completely beyond our understanding of what this means. No, the Melech Sdaim said that. And Avram Avinu agreed. He didn't say, no, give me back the nefesh. Vayorek es chanichav yelidei beisai. So it says vayorek. What does the word vayorek mean? So vayorek simply means that he gave them weapons to fight. But the Gemara darshans Rav Oma shahirikan b'Torah. It means he encouraged them to fight with the koyach of the Torah. That's how he brought them to fight with him, with the kings that he was fighting. Shmuel says shahirikan b'zav. He emptied out. He opened up all of his treasures of gold and silver, and he gave them everything to come and fight with him. Shmaina Asar Ushloish Meyos. So how many came to fight with him? 318, the pasuk says. Amar Abami Barabe Eliezer Keneged Kulam. Eliezer, the servant of Avram Avinu, he is as strong as all of them. Iked Amri, there are others that say Eliezer who? Actually, when the pasuk says 318, there weren't 318. It was only Eliezer. Eliezer, the name Eliezer, the word, is the same gematria as 318. So it was really just Avram and Eliezer that went to fight all these mighty kings. Again, Eliezer hu chushbnei hachi habe. This is the gematria. V'amar Abami bar Abba ben Gimel shanim hik Avram es bayrei. Avram Avinu came to recognize the Eibishter when he was 3 years old.
It's an opposite shot of he took the Talmidei Chachamim.
Correct. And Hanami, it says here only took Eliezer. So Avram Avinu was 3 years old when he recognized this creator. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, Eikev ashashama Avram b'koili. So the simple pshat is Eikev, because Avram Avinu listened to my voice. But we dash in the word Eikev, chush b'nei, the gematria of Eikev is Meya v'shivin v'trein. 172, that's the years that Avram Avinu served Hashem, which means that for 3 years Avram Avinu did not recognize the Eibishter. So 2 things about this Gemara. First of all, the Rebbe always brings the pshat that it says in Chassidus that it doesn't only mean that in the time of his life he served Hashem, but it also means in the entire kaiches of his body. Eikev means that he served the Eibishter down to the piyata, down to the heel of his body. Every aspect of his being was fully dedicated to the Eibishter. Another point is, the Rebbe asks on this Gemara, how could it say Eikev Ashashama, which means there were 3 years left out of his life, if we know that it says, Avram Avinu said, Avram Zakim Baba Yamim. Baba Yamim means all of the days of his life were full, from the first moment that he was created, not just from 3 years old. Elamai, the Rebbe says the answer is because the first 3 years of his life, Avraham Avinu was thinking and preparing and trying to figure out who the Eibishter is. He came to the understanding when he was 3 years old. So, but all those years that he was thinking is also included in his Avodas Hashem. And the Rebbe says it's just like chinuch, just like every person from in the ages when he's before bar mitzvah and he's chinuch and he's learning, he's preparing. So that's also part of a yid's Avodas Hashem. So really, Avraham Avinu served the Eibishter from the first moment of his life. Rami Baraba, that is Hasatan, the word Hasatan, with a hey in the beginning. B'chush b'nei, so the gematria of this is Tlasmei v'shitten varba, 364. What's the significance of this? The Gemara does not explain, but the Rishonim here bring that this means that 364 days of the year, the Satan could come and disturb a year. One day, Yom Kippur, the Satan has nothing to say, he can't come and disturb a yid. It's interesting though that it says that it's the gematria of Ha-Satan, not just the word Satan, but Ha-Satan, because in Psukim in different places it says Ha-Satan, that's the gematria. V'amarami barabo ksiv Avram. Pasuk refers to Avram Avinu as Avram, that was his name in the beginning. Uksiv Avraham, and then his name changed to Avraham. What's the significance of the name change? In the beginning, he was a king. He had control over 243 of his limbs. And then afterwards, Eibusha gave him control. He was a king over all 248 limbs of his body. And Elohein, what did Eibusha add? Shtei Anayim, the 2 eyes. Shtei Aznayim, the 2 ears. V'roisha Gviya, and the Aver of the Bris Milah, he also had control over this. So the Rishonim over here explained it. Ran over here explains that in the beginning he was able to have control over all those limbs of his body, which a person can naturally have control over. But the eyes, the ears, those are things that a person walks out and he sees things and he hears things. It's not even in control of the person. You get exposed to things that you're not even interested in. So Avraham Avinu, the Eibishter, gave him the power that even things after he served the Eibishter with such Mesiras Nefesh, the Eibishter gave him the power beyond nature that his eyes should not see what it's not supposed to, his ears should not hear what it's not supposed to. I think there's a story with the Rebbe Rashab. He was once in a room saying a maimer, and next door there was someone that was talking and disturbing him, and he took away his koyach hashmiyah, that he shouldn't hear from that ear. And then later he didn't realize what happened, and he couldn't hear, and he had to get back the koyach hashmiyah that he took away because he didn't want to get disturbed from somebody. A tzaddik has control over his senses, even things that you think that a human being could say it's beyond his control, but the Eibusha gave him to be a king over all of his evarim. There's a pasuk in Kehelos that says, and here this is the source of the famous Inyan when you get to the body of a person. Ir Ketana. It's just a small, very small city. Va'anoshim v'gaimer, and there's men over there. Anoshim b'ma'at, the pasuk continues, there's a few people there. Okay, the Gemara here is going to quote the continuation of the pasuk, as we'll see. So Ir Ketana, what is this small city that the pasuk is speaking about? Ze'aguf. This is the body of a person. The Alter Rebbe quotes this in Tanya Perik Tes. The body of the person is the small city where the battle is happening in. V'anoshim b'ma'at, and there's men in it. Who are the few people that are in this city? Elo evarim. This refers to the limbs of the person's body, all the different functions a person has. And then the pasuk there continues, Uboy Elel Melech Gadol, a great king comes, V'sive Vaisa, places siege on the city. Who is this? Zeh Yetzer Hara. This is the Yetzer Hara that comes and wants to conquer the body, wants to conquer the city. Ubana Eleh Mitzudim V'charamim, and he builds all kinds of Mitzudim V'charamim to trap and to capture the city. So what is this? Elu Avainis. This is this king, the Yetzer Hara, that comes and tries to persuade a person to sin, and then he'll capture the city. Matzabah ish miskein v'chacham, enters into the city and he finds this poor but wise person. Who is this? Zeh Yetzer Tov. This is the Yetzer Tov that's there in the city. Umilet hu seir b'chachmasai, and he's able to save the entire city of the Yetzer Hara that seems to be very mighty, but this one individual with his chachma is able to save the whole city. And what is the chachma? Zu tshuva o ma'asim tovim. Chachma refers to the yid doing tshuva and ma'asim tovim, and this is able to save and conquer the whole city. And va'adam loizacha, then the pasuk there continues and says, va'adam loizacha es isha miskenahu. Nobody remembers this poor individual. When is it that nobody remembers this poor individual? The Bishas Yetzer Hara, when the Yetzer Hara comes and tries is active and tries to persuade a person to do an Aveda, les the mitkele Yetzer Tov. He doesn't remember the Yetzer Tov. The Yetzer Hara comes and attacks a person in such a way, it's like the Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya, once the Ruach Shtus overcomes a person, he makes you lose your mind, and you forget about the Yetzer Tov that you have. You just have to stop a moment and remember that you have a Yetzer Tov, and then you'll realize that the Yetzer Hara is nothing. Okay, here the Gemara brings this, and the Gemara talks about the Yetzer Tov, the Yetzer Hara, but of course the Alter Rebbe in Tanya explains this entire Inyan and says that there's really two nefashos. It's not just two yitzrim, it's not just two inclinations in the heart of a person, but two entire personalities, two entire lives that exist in a person's heart that are constantly fighting over the control over the guf of the yid. Pasuk says, "Ha-chochma ta'oiz l'chocham." Chochma of a person gives strength to the wise, me'asara shalitim, more than the 10 rulers. Who are these 10 rulers? Ha-chochma ta'oiz l'chocham z'tshuva ma'asim tovim. Chachma refers to tshuva ma'asim tovim. Again, you see here when the Gemara teaches, whenever it says in the pasuk chachma, don't think it just refers to wisdom. Wisdom alone is insufficient. Chachma means that you put your wisdom into practice. Tshuva and ma'asim tovim. And this is better me'asara shalitim. What does asara shalitim refer to? So the Bachir adds, Eluhain, they are as follows. Shtei einayim, the 2 eyes, shtei aznayim, the 2 ears, shtei yadayim, the 2 hands, shtei raglayim, the 2 feet, v'roish hagvia, and the aver of the bris, upeh, and the mouth of a person. Right, so if a person uses his chachma properly, and for tshuva ma'asim tovim, this is more powerful than all the other basic functions of a person. Amar Rab Zcharia, Mishum Rabbi Shmuel, Bikesh HaKadosh Baruch Hu Lahaitzi Kohuna Mishem. The Eibusher wanted that the Kohanim, Kohuna, should come from Shem. Instead of Avraham Avinu being the first of the Avos, and Kohuna will come from him, the Eibusher wanted that Shem, he should be the one that Kohuna should come from him. Shenema, the pasuk says, "V'hu kayin lekeil elyon," that the Shem was a kayin, and he would be the first of the kayinim. But what happened? Kiv in shehiktim birchas Avraham lebirchas Hamakim. When he was speaking to Avraham Avinu, he benched Avraham Avinu before he benched the Eibishter. Haitzia me Avraham. So he lost this merit, and the kayinim come from Avraham Avinu. Shenema, as the pasuk says, "Vayevorcheyu." Shem benched Avraham. Vayoyme said, "Barach Avraham lekeil elyon kayin shemaim varetz." Avraham should be blessed. And then he said, "Ubarach keil elyon," and the Eibishter is blessed. Amalei Avram, so Avram says to Shem, "V'chi magdimin birchas eved lebirchas kainai." Do you first bless the servant before you bless the master? Miyad nitna l'Avram. Immediately, the kohuna was given to Avram Avinu. Shenema, as we learn out from the pasuk that it says in Tilim, "Neum Hashem la'adayni shev liyamini ad oshes oivecha adoim l'raglecha." Eibusher says to his master that I will put all your enemies to be like a footstool to you. This is when Avraham Avinu there was fighting with all the kings. Ubasrei ksiv, and then it says, Nishba Hashem v'lo yenachem. Hashem swore, and he will not change this, that ata kayin la'ilam, that you from Avraham Avinu, he will be a kayin, and from him will come kahuna forever. Al divrasi malki tzedek. What does divrasi malki tzedek mean? That this all happened because al diburai shal malki tzedek, because of the words that Malki Tzedek said, which Malki Tzedek refers to Shem, that he benched Avram before he benched Hashem. And v'hainu d'chsiv, and this is what the pasuk here says that we quoted before, v'hu kayin lekeil elyon, he was a kayin for the Eibishter. So the pasuk is emphasizing who kayin. He himself was a kayin, but ve'ein zare kayin. His descendants did not merit to be a kayin, but the beginning of the kohuna starts from Avram Avinu and not from Shem, because of what Gemara explained before. Hadran Allah Harban Nedarim. This is the conclusion of the 3rd Perek of Masechta Nedarim.
You're designating